Hello there and welcome to this special episode of Brian Lomax Movie Talk, where I'm going to be counting down my top 5 Michael Mann movies. These are the movies he's directed. He's produced a lot, he's written a lot too, but I'm just concentrating on the films that he personally has directed. Now, Michael Mann started out in TV. He did shows like Miami Vice, which he created. He also did Crime Story, and he also did quite a few documentaries early on in his career. But what Michael Mann excels at is the police thriller. The majority of his films involve cops and robbers, cops and the other side of the law. His latest one, Black Hat, which I've yet to see, that obviously has a crime thriller element to it, but he's famous for films like Heat and Public Enemies and Manhunter, which was a precursor to Silence of the Lambs. So these are all films that deal with the police and the wrong side of the law. So before I count down my top 5, I would just like to give a few honourable mentions. Miami Vice, as I said, it was a TV series that he created, but he also directed a film version of that, which probably wasn't as successful as the series was, and certainly not as successful as some of his other work. Certainly not as good. It's probably one of his lesser efforts, but it's still a good film and it's well worth checking out if you haven't seen it. The biopic of Muhammad Ali, just called Ali, that's also a really good film. Didn't quite make this list, but it gives a really good performance from Will Smith, probably the best of his career. Again, the aforementioned Manhunter, the precursor to Silence of the Lambs and that Hannibal Lecter trilogy. I think his take on that story, which was later adapted as the Brett Ratner film Red Dragon, probably Brett Ratner's best work, to be honest, was much better, I think, than the Anthony Hopkins series of Lecter films. And finally, in the honourable mentions is LA Takedown. Now, this wasn't a release in cinemas, this was a made-for-TV movie, but it was the blueprint for Heat. Michael Mann tested out this story for a TV audience before the studios really saw the potential in this film for something a lot more epic, which, as I say, he would later go on to make as Heat. Now, they're the honourable mentions. Obviously, they didn't quite make it into my top 5. Manhunter really just missed out. So let's take a look at what did get in my top 5, starting with number 5, The Last of the Mohicans. Coming fairly hot on the heels of the award-winning Dances with Wolves, this film is just as every bit as successful. Daniel Day-Lewis plays this man who has essentially been adopted into an Indian culture. He's been reared as an Indian, even though he's actually a Western guy. And then a love story develops between him and this Western woman. So we get this meeting of these two cultures, really, who don't particularly understand each other but grow to love each other, and it really is just a classic love story, and it's brilliantly told by Michael Mann. It's very well directed, and it's a great performance from Daniel Day-Lewis, as you would expect. He never does anything less than great. But Madeleine Stowe in this film also is really very good, and I've not seen much of her in recent years, and particularly in the 90s she had a very strong career. She was in a lot of films that I really enjoyed, this probably being one of the finest. Number 4, Public Enemies. Public Enemies sees Johnny Depp playing notorious and real-life gangster John Dillinger, whilst Christian Bale plays the federal agent who pursued him, Melvin Purvis. A lot of research has gone into this film, you can tell, into the script, as Michael Mann is often known for doing. He delves quite deeply into the research for a lot of his period pieces. But this film feels very much, again, like Heat, going back to the idea that Mann often pursues these stories of crime dramas with different sides of the law really going up against each other. He often plays on this idea of two men on opposite sides of a particular stomping ground, so to speak, who are also considered equals of their respective sides. It feels very much like Heat set in the 1930s. It's a slight role reversal, though. In Heat, we have Al Pacino, who's on the right side of the law, and he's the more extrovert character. He's the one who's like over the top. Whereas in this film, it's John Dillinger. He's the one with the charisma. He's the one who's just, you don't know what he's going to do. He could fly off the handle at any moment. Whereas Christian Bale plays the more kind of cold, more like insular Melvin Purvis, in the same way that Robert De Niro's character in Heat was. I really love this film because of the period detail. I love the way it's shot. It's shot on entirely on digital. For a lot of people, that was a big no-no. A lot of people didn't like that, but I really felt that it brought you into that world. The way in which this film is shot, it makes you feel like you're watching a documentary almost, like they've gone back in time and literally visited this world, and that's why I really like it. I think it's a bold choice for a big Hollywood production, and I think it's one of the things that makes Michael Mann stand out as just a visionary director, really. Number 3. Collateral. One of the things that Michael Mann has a habit of doing is taking big Hollywood stars and just really making the best of their talents. As far as Hollywood stars go, none come such bigger as Tom Cruise. And Mann, I must say, gets an absolutely brilliant performance here from Cruise, playing, I think, the only villainous role he's ever played here. But he does a really good job at it. We're really gripped in this story, and the majority of it takes place in fairly confined quarters, as it mostly takes place inside a taxi cab, and the character played by Jamie Foxx is essentially the mouse caught in Tom Cruise's trap. It's just a really good thriller, a really good character study, just these two guys who we just follow throughout this movie, and the relationship that develops between them. We get a lot of pathos from Tom Cruise's character, just the way he delivers it. We don't really know who this guy is. He's almost like a Michael Myers figure. He waltzes in, does his business, and waltzes out. In many ways, like The Hitcher as well, the classic 80s film starring Rutger Hauer. He's just a presence, a force that comes in and just makes an impact in this guy's life. But he's more than a boogeyman. We get a sense of someone who has lived a life that maybe is filled with a bit of regret, maybe filled with a tinge of remorse, but it's a really well-rounded character that I think maybe is more due to Tom Cruise's performance than anything in the script. I don't know. I think I maybe have to go back and re-watch it, but my memory of this film is that it's really good, and there's a really good standout supporting performance by Mark Ruffalo, who is one of my favourite actors and always delivers whatever he is in. So yeah, just a really good thriller again from Michael Mann. Number 2, The Insider. The Insider is a really compelling true-life drama which centres around these two characters, Lowell Bergman, played by Al Pacino, and Jeffrey Wigand, played brilliantly by Russell Crowe, probably the best performance of his career so far, to be honest, with maybe the exception of Maximus from Gladiator. But as I say, it's a true story, and it's absolutely gripping from start to finish. The first half of the film centres primarily on Crowe's character, Jeffrey Wigand, as a whistleblower from the tobacco industry. Now, this is a time before people really understood just how badly the tobacco industry really wanted you to get addicted to their product, and just how much they hid as to how addictive their product was. Jeffrey Wigand was the whistleblower. He was the man who like delivered that truth, so to speak, and it cost him an awful lot in his life because the rich tobacco companies that had employed him really just tried to destroy him as a result of it. The character played by Al Pacino, Lowell Bergman, the second half of the film really centres on him and his efforts to bring that story to light. It has a fairly tragic ending. It's not overly tragic, it's not like anyone dies or anything, but it's a sad kind of ringing indictment of the power that multinational corporations actually have. But it's as I say, it's a really gripping film, two real standout performances, and absolutely brilliant direction from Michael Mann once again. And so that brings us to my number 1. My number 1 favourite film directed by Michael Mann is Heat. So once again, Michael Mann doing what he does best, which is a cop thriller, looking at two men who are just as obsessed as each other, only on opposite sides of the law. And a lot of people don't know that this is actually based on a true story. It's based on real life characters. Again, Michael Mann did his research. He interviewed the men in prison that this film is based on. The character played by Robert De Niro, that is. Obviously, a lot of it is dramatic license. This isn't meant to be feeding us a fact by fact true life story. But the characters in this film, as I say, they're so well fleshed out, and I think that's a result of Mann doing his research into the actual characters that kind of inspired it, really. But from start to finish, this film is fantastic. It is one of the best police procedural thrillers ever made. The performances all across the board are really brilliant. Some side players like Tom Sizemore and Val Kilmer, Tom Noonan, and plenty of others that I'm missing out really deliver outstanding performances. It's one of the best ensembles I've ever seen. But again, just that attention to detail, and if you are not gripped during the famous bank shootout, the bank heist, then there's something wrong with you as far as I'm concerned, because that is without a doubt the best shootout ever put to celluloid. It lasts for about 10-15 minutes long, and it just pulls you right into the action, because there's no music used throughout that film, well, throughout that scene in the film, I should say. It's all reliant on the sound effects, on the sound of gunshots, and the heat of battle. You feel like you've been just again put into this. The way that Michael Mann did with Public Enemies, the use of digital there, just. Not so much here because it's not shot on digital, but just the way he shoots things, almost in a documentary style. This is the first meeting in cinema history between Al Pacino and Robert De Niro. They were in The Godfather Part 2 together, but they never actually met on screen. This is the first time that they do, and it is well worth the wait. Their first meeting, it's just a conversation in a diner, in a coffee shop, but it's so filled with little character moments and tension between these two obsessed men, that it's just really palpable. Everything in that scene is just brilliant. It's played absolutely fantastically by two masters of the craft. So from start to finish, this really is just a masterclass in filmmaking. Everybody is on their game, and this is one of the best cop thrillers ever made, as I said. Really, really great stuff. And so there you go. There's my top 5 Michael Mann movies, the films that he directed at any rate. But I want to know what your favourite is, so comment below and let me know. And until next time, thanks for watching. Public Enemies sees